suggests that the use of the recommended supplements will fully eradicate osteoarthritis. The evidence carefully collected in this book substantiates that the nutritional supplements recommended are frequently effective, even for long periods. Even so, we offer no guarantee that every individual will benefit from this program. The laboratory analysis referred to in Chapter 4 was conducted by the University of Maryland at Baltimore. We chose this lab based on their unique familiarity with the compounds and their fire reputation, as well as the laboratory analysis referred to in Chapter 4 was conducted by the University of Maryland at Baltimore. We chose this lab based on their unique familiarity with these compounds and their fine reputation. I was delighted to find this article, which reviewed the European experience with chondroprotective agents in several thousand patients. I cautiously began to give them to my patients who were not able to tolerate non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medications because of their side effects. These were patients who had few treatment alternatives. One patient with chronic pain in her hip whose x-rays demonstrated severe osteoarthritis was contemplating hip replacement surgery. After taking glucosamine and chondroitin sulfate, her pain and disability had decreased significantly, and she has not required the need for surgery. Other patients suffering from severe osteoarthritis required similar results, so I began to expand the indications of these two substances. I've been using glucosamine and chondroitin sulfate for 2 years now. My patients and I are gratified at the positive results. American physicians have been criticized for their failure to use glucosamine and chondroitin sulfates, but American physicians are reluctant to use anything not proven effective in America. American studies, and the European data has not yet been duplicated in the United States. Why haven't there been American studies on these substances? Great question. As you'll learn from reading this book, it all boils down to money. Glucosamine and chondroitin sulfates, both natural substances, cannot be given the financial protection of a patent, so the drug companies lack financial incentives to promote them. Listen. Okay, where was I? And so the story of these two promising osteoarthritis therapies has not yet been told here in the United States. I am currently conducting the first human double-blind prospective randomized study of these substances in the United States. We will be working with a total of 100 people suffering from mild to moderate osteoarthritis of the knee. For 6 months, the patients will either receive a placebo or a combination of glucosamine and chondroitin sulfates. Each participant will be evaluated for pain and disability before and after taking the supplements or the placebo. Everyone with osteoarthritis, and that includes a great many people in this country and abroad, deserve to know the facts contained within this book. I congratulate Dr. Theodosakis, Dr. Fox, and Ms. Adderley for their significant contribution to the lay medical literature. It's about time. The arthritis cure. Can osteoarthritis be cured? What is osteoarthritis? Why is cartilage the focal point of the disease? What are the symptoms of osteoarthritis and which joints are affected? What causes osteoarthritis? Who is affected by osteoarthritis? What is the difference between osteoarthritis and the rheumatoid arthritis? How is osteoarthritis disguised? Diagnosed. My apologies. What substances are being used to cure osteoarthritis? It starts with a little stiffness in your right knee. why the commonly prescribed treatment is strictly palliative, designed only to relieve the pain without addressing the true causes of the disease or the condition of the joints. For mild cases, doctors prescribed painkillers such as Tylenol or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. For mild cases, doctors prescribed painkillers such as aspirin, ibuprofen, Motrin, or Advil. Up until now, doctors in the United States thought that osteoarthritis was incurable. That's why the commonly prescribed treatment is strictly palliative, designed only to relieve the pain without addressing the true causes of the disease or the condition of the joints. For mild cases, doctors prescribed painkillers such as Tylenol or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. Steroid injections such as cortisone and opiates are reserved for the more painful cases. Unfortunately, the painkillers and anti-inflammatories have problems. They temporarily relieve pain, but in the long run, they can simply cover up the symptoms. They simply cover up the symptoms while the disease progresses further. These drugs have side effects that range from the annoying to the downright dangerous. Each year, thousands of people die from the adverse effects of both the anti-inflammatories and steroids. To add insult to injury, some research suggests that there is mounting evidence that non-steroidal anti-inflammatories actually cause certain features of osteoarthritis to progress faster. So years of masking your pain with drumming, expensive and potentially dangerous surgery. Many doctors in Europe and Asia, as well as small but rapidly growing groups in the United States, are actually curing the symptoms of osteoarthritis. They've had excellent results with approaches based on a combination of natural supplements that have been shown to slow and eventually eliminate the disease in many patients. The facts about this revolutionary approach to solving a widespread problem are amazing. Our approach includes a combination of two nutritional supplements called glucosamine and chondroitin. I was saying it wrong the whole time, guys. Our approach includes a combination of two nutritional supplements called glucosamine and chondroitin sulfates. Both glucosamine and chondroitin sulfates are available without a prescription in most health food stores in America. So, I'm assuming they're talking about Sprouts, maybe Whole Foods, Lazy Acres, that type of vibe. Okay, back to the book. This isn't what I'm saying, this is the book. Since they are substances we already consume and produce in very small quantities in our body, glucosamine and chondroitin sulfates have no known significant side effects. This amazing fact stands in stark contrast to painkillers such as the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. Millions of Americans suffer from osteoarthritis, a painful, debilitating disease. Although most physicians consider it to be incurable, osteoarthritis can actually be stopped in its tracks or reversed by using glucosamine and chondroitin sulfates. These amazing natural substances may also be effective against other musculoskeletal conditions. This astonishing information is well known and widely accepted in many other countries across the globe. It's about time that we put it to use right here in the United States. But can we accept medical advances that come from abroad? After all, we have a wonderful medical system. If something is that good, shouldn't we have thought of it first? Shouldn't we have at least known about it? Physicians in other countries are often ahead of us in so many areas of medicine. The first heart transplant was performed in South Africa. The first test tube baby was born in England. France was a forerunner in the development of the AIDS drug AZT. Devices used to hold open clogged arteries called coronary stents are several generations more advanced in Europe than in the United States. In fact, U.S. Osteoarthritis is just one of many forms of joint disease. It is, however, the most common form of arthritis, affecting the articular cartilage, the smooth, glistening, bluish white substance attached to the ends of the bones. Have you ever looked at or touched the end of a chicken drumstick? That's articular cartilage. I'm trying to picture that. Oh yeah, I eat that part. That's like a wing, right? Oh wait, no, drumstick. Yeah, that's actually good for you. It has a lot of collagen. In addition to the articular cartilage, osteoarthritis, called OA for short, affects several other areas in and around the joints. These include the subchondral bone, the ends of the bones where the cartilage is attached, the capsules that surround the joints, the muscles around, and the muscles just adjacent to the joint. Cartilage, the focal point of osteoarthritis. Osteoarthritis begins in the cartilage, the rubbery, gel-like tissue found at the end of the bones, about 65 to 80% water. Cartilage is designed to do two things: reduce the friction caused by one bone rubbing against another, and blunt the constant trauma inflicted on bones during everyday life. Think of healthy cartilage as being something of a sponge between the hard ends of the bones. The spongy material soaks up liquid, specifically synovial fluid, when the joint is at rest. For example, every time you take a step and the leg supports the pressure of your body weight, the cartilage in your knee joint is squeezed, forcing much of the synovial fluid out of it. But then when you pick up your foot to take another step, the fluid rushes back into the cartilage. The fluid squishes in and out as the cartilage responds to the constantly changing force exerted on the joint. Over time, unfortunately, osteoarthritis can dry out the cartilage, eroding the protective buffer between the bones. As you'll learn in Chapter 2, the problem is growing in the cartilage matrix, the birthplace of cartilage, long before any symptoms are felt. As the disease progresses, the cartilage begins to soften and crack. In advanced cases, bone spurs, osteophytes, abnormal bone hardening for ebumation. As you'll learn in Chapter 2, the problem is growing in the cartilage matrix, the birthplace of cartilage, long before any symptoms are felt. As the disease progresses, the cartilage begins to soften and crack. In advanced cases, bone spurs, abnormal bone hardening, and fluid-filled pockets in the bone can form. And of course, the more cartilage wears away, the more the bones rub together, creating greater amounts of pain, bone deformities, and eventually inflammation. In severe cases, the cartilage may disappear altogether, leaving the bone ends completely exposed. Like, if you use your knees a lot for work, this can happen. Like, say you play soccer or volleyball or basketball for like 12 years as a professional, like, you can have osteoarthritis, but don't worry, this is the natural solution. This is the picture that we get for this. Description is the picture of the bone of the knee. And another picture. You can easily see cartilage damage and erosion by looking at an X-ray of an osteoarthritic joint. The joint is narrowed and uneven, no longer held wide apart with the even contours of healthy cartilage. In fact, if you would actually look inside an arthritic joint, you would immediately notice two things that distinguish it from a healthy one. First, the cartilage is breaking down, revealing an uneven pitted surface that might even have holes in it. Second, the new cartilage and new bone is being laid down by the body in an attempt to compensate we got a picture of what's happening here. The major symptoms of osteoarthritis are pain, stiffness, crackling, and enlargement and deformities. And enlargement or deformities of the afflicted joint or joints with inflammatory possible in the advanced stages. Pain. The hallmark of osteoarthritis is pain described by patients as anything from mild to moderately dull aching to deep and throbbing pain. So this picture is a normal versus an osteoarthritis joint. So you can see the difference. It looks like there's no more liquid and it's just bone on bone. The cartilage has deteriorated. It usually begins as a minor ache that appears only after the joint has been used, and the pain often disappears with rest. But as the disease progresses, a sharp pain may strike as soon as the joint is moved or used, even a little. Eventually, the joint aches even when in a resting position, unused and unpressured. In severe cases, osteoarthritic pain can disrupt sleep, making life even more miserable. Osteoarthritic joints are often stiff, especially in the morning. They may also lock up after long periods of inactivity, such as while sitting in a car or a movie theater. Early in the disease process, the stiffness lasts only briefly and can easily be worked out. Early in the disease process, the stiffness lasts only briefly and can easily be worked out. But as the disease worsens, a permanent loss of range or of motion occurs that does not change, even with warm-up exercise and continual motion. Joint crackling, also known as ARTHRITIS, the crackling and crunching feeling emanating from the affected joints, most often a knee loss, less commonly a hip, occurs in advanced stages of osteoarthritis. It may be caused by. And lastly, before we start off on the next book, let's talk about joint crackling, also known as crepitus. This crackling and crunching feeling emanating from the affected joints occurs in advanced stages of osteoarthritis. It may be caused by the joints rubbing together during regular use or when the joint is passively manipulated during a medical exam. Most often striking the knees. The creaking sound can sometimes be heard all the way across a room. As frightening as it sounds, however, it's usually painless or at most accompanied by a dull sensation. So that was a little. So within reading 2 chapters, I don't think we'll have to touch base on this book anymore. I can basically tell you guys what the cure is. They are parents, with special thanks to my sister Caroline and Margaret and my uncle Mario Buscaglia, who helped me to get the facts straight, and to Dan Kimber and Stephen Short, who offered ways to better communicate them. Thanks also to Pete Maga for helping me in the search for photos. No man can possibly know what life means, what the world means, what anything means, until he has a child and loves it. And then the whole universe changes, and nothing will ever again seem exactly as it seemed before. Love Gadio Yarn. That's not the author. I think that's a quote that the author likes. Introduction. And the table of contents. The thing I was always warned against about waiting a long time to have children. The thing I was always warned against about waiting a long time to have children was that I wouldn't be able to throw a ball with them. Well, I'm here to say that I don't think it's going to be a problem. Either I'll throw balls with the best of them, and that'll be that, or I won't, and it won't matter a damn. 2+ years into this fatherhood business, and I know at least that what kids require of their fathers is a lot of attention, a lot of love. And I suspect if mine ever reach the age of understanding a lot of that too, they can find other people to throw balls at them. Introduction. Introduction. It happened when I was supervising an educational program for disabled children many years ago. I was observing in a classroom for mildly retarded 4th graders. I sat beside 6 children and their teacher in their reading group. They were reading a story about a little duck that had no father. As with all good children's books, this one was filled with repetitive phrases. The refrain was always, "But the little duck had no father." The teacher, having learned the best technique from her prestigious school of education, read carefully, distinctly, and with feeling. When she completed the story, she followed up immediately with the question and answer period to check comprehension, as all good educators do. Martha, she asked the lovely girl in the group, "Tell us, did the little duck have a father?" The child answered without a moment's hesitation, "Yes." The teacher paused for a moment, slightly taken aback by the little girl's response. when I was growing up, it was much easier to define a father. He was the male parent, usually the provider, the ultimate disciplinarian, the decision maker, the symbolic head of the family. When the car stopped working, he fixed it. When a jar stubbornly refused to relinquish its lid, he was summoned to the rescue. If there was a strange noise in the hall, he was the one who investigated it. Most of all, if you had been a brat that day, it was Dad who you were. Most of all, if you had been a brat that day, it was Dad who you were threatened with. Just wait till your father gets home. He was gone most of the time at some mysterious place called work, which took him away from home during the day and often occupied his mind at night. It was part of the vast, uncomprehended world of grown-ups that children never fully understand. At the time, it was generally accepted that fathers kept their children at emotional arm's length. The children growing up then looked to their mothers as the nurturers. Dad's job was to bring home the bacon and pay the rent. He was the parent about whom a child knew the least. As humorist Irma Bombeck wrote about her father, "When I was a little kid, a father was like a light in the refrigerator. Every house had one, but no one really knew what either of them did once the door was shut." The media have historically portrayed Dad, when he happened to be present, as a bumbling, ineffectual, but lovable person who didn't seem to mind being neglected, ignored, or ridiculed. He was the constant scapegoat for anything horrible, such as ring around the collar, dandruff on his label, or bad breath. All this was different from another, earlier image of father that inspired more fear than respect from his children. He was responsible for putting the fear of God into his kids by not sparing the rod. He was serious, all work and no play, harsh, domineering, and unapproachable. The last few decades have produced a very altered image of fathers. Their traditional role has changed drastically. It's not uncommon today to find a father as nurturer, willing to put urgent matters aside for what he agrees is more important. An active role as family member. He doesn't feel uncomfortable accompanying his children to nursery school, going on class field trips, or proudly watching them perform in the school play, ballet, or baseball game, eagerly recording every action for prosperity with his camera. He is happy to sit patiently while his child performs amazing acts of magic for the 15th time, or insists that he solve the riddle just learned from the child next door. He regularly attends backyard parties, dining on the pies decorated with dandelions and sipping imaginary tea from tin cups. He is eager to involve himself in honest exchanges of feelings and affection, hoping that he will one day graduate into being one of his child's best friends. And he is free of the feeling that he must project an image of infallibility, or that a show of tenderness and vulnerability will threaten his image of masculinity. He seeks out more active and creative roles in child rearing. He permits himself to respond to his natural instincts, is less reticent to reveal his softer side, eager to show his concern, commitment, and love. He is becoming less driven by work goals, accumulating assets and prestige, and more devoted to the responsibility he has assumed by bringing children into the world. as their dreams of a unified, happy family are shattered. They will too often equate the failed relationship with some fault in themselves as human beings, an unnecessarily harsh and self-defeating judgment. They must realize that none of the participants in this very human drama are villains. They are simply people with individual strengths and weaknesses, neither perfect nor faultless. Armed with this basic but essential insight, perhaps they can move from bitterness and blame to the liberation that comes through forgiveness. There is always hope in the knowledge that adults can learn, change, and grow, and that children are resilient and natural forgiving. We are too quick to assume that failed marriages leave ruined lives in their wake without taking into account the human capacity to adapt, to change, and get on with life. Recently, in a short informal activity to prepare second graders for the celebration of Father's Day, they were asked to respond to the question, "What do you love about your dad?" Their answers were sometimes poignant and often reflective of the fact that non-traditional roles of fatherhood are fast becomingly accepted as the norm. I love my father Bob because we have fun together on weekends, and I love my new father Al because he plays with me and fixes me breakfast every morning. I love my dad, but I don't know where he is. I know he's somewhere because he sends us money all the time, but I don't ever see him. I love my dad because he loves me and my brother and my mom, and he hugs and kisses us a lot. I love my dad because he always brings us things when he visits us on weekends. I know it has become popular to write books condemning one's parents about the resentment felt, the irreparable harm they've done, and about there being the underlying cause of some present unhappiness. Whoa, this book is getting deep. Okay, wait, I'm just gonna go back. This book is getting kind of deep. Check this out. I think he's simping a little bit. I feel like Mr. Leo Buscaglia, you were simping right here. When you say, I know it has become popular to write books condemning one's parents about the resentment felt, the irreparable harm they've done, and about there being the underlying cause of some present unhappiness. That's a lot to blame on your parents, Leo. Okay, let's just proceed. This is certainly not one of those books. Okay. It's also not a book intended to help fathers work through their changing roles. I have neither the inclination nor the expertise it takes to write such a volume. The book is different. It's a book celebrating the father I grew up with, loved, and with whom I shared so much for so many years. It is the commemoration of the father I knew best, his life, his loves, his actions, and what directly or indirectly he taught me about life, beauty, and love. Papa never climbed Everest or made the Guinness Book of World Records. He never read the classics or saw an original painting by Breck. He never played baseball and rarely won at buckball. I don't know what buckball is. He was born poor, and in spite of his working hard all his life, he was always poor. He was proud, self-taught, and left no debts. If he had any hidden dreams other than of being a good man, a committed father, and a loving husband, no one ever knew about them. If deep regrets, fears, or personal doubts tormented him, he never stated them. I am aware that years of having known and loved my father have transformed him from preoccupied or embarrassed to deal with them? Was I concerned only with those questions that